Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Benny. It's great to see you.
I am a little bit disappointed that you didn't bring your Captain America shield. We have the shield right here for anybody who isn't familiar. Tulsi Gabbard, upon her confirmation to her office, received what I will only classify as a Captain America shield. Does that hang in your office?
No, it hangs somewhere in my building. I have yet to find it, honestly. Okay. They didn't let me take it away.
Okay. You got to sign it, all right. Well, it's a pretty cool shield.
Yes.
And I assume that the ascendancy into that building has been a wild ride, given the amount of work that you've been doing.
We've been working hard.
Yes.
We've been working hard to come in on day one and carry out the mandate that President Trump delivered, that the American people delivered to him, and to carry out on the commitments that I made when President Trump nominated me for this position, was to find the truth and tell the truth to the American people and work very hard every day to make sure that the intelligence that we are providing to the president, to his cabinet, and to policymakers is not politicized, that it is unbiased, objective, relevant, and timely intelligence that can truly best inform those critical decisions that the president is faced with making on a daily basis in the interests of the American people and the safety, security, and freedom of our country.
Well, Director, it seems like you've begun a trend, because now with some of the disclosures and declassifications from your office, there are other offices who are making some pretty shocking announcements. Like, for instance, Director Patel made the announcement that they found thousands of Russiagate documents in a burn bag. This happened over the last 24 hours, locked in a secret SCIF hidden deep within the bowels of the FBI. So now you have other directors looking in their departments and finding this kind of shocking. I wonder your reaction to this news.
I wish I could say I was surprised by it, but when people hear the term deep state and you hear about things like this, these are the actions that have been and are being taken to try to hide the truth away from us and really to hide the truth away from the American people. And really, this is why time is of the essence for us to be able to find these documents. And this is kind of a daily frustration, to be honest, because I think, from the outside looking in, people say, hey, why can't you as director just say, give me all of the documents on this topic from across the intelligence community? I wish it were that easy, and I do send those directives out. But you have examples just like the one Director Patel uncovered, where you have highly classified documents hidden away in a burn bag intended for destruction. Thankfully, somebody forgot to actually destroy those documents so that he was able to discover them. But there are a lot of different methods and tactics that, unfortunately, bad actors within the intelligence community use to try to hide the truth because they're afraid that if the truth is revealed, either they or their friends or their benefactors will be exposed for doing some of the things that we exposed to the American people over the last couple of weeks, truly politicizing and weaponizing intelligence, knowingly creating false intelligence assessments in order to have a very specific outcome that, in the case of President Trump and the 2016 election, has the effect of undermining our democratic republic and creating a fake intelligence assessment based on discredited information, pieces of very shoddy so-called intelligence that were not acceptable under the intelligence community's tradecraft standards, but they were used to create this fake intelligence assessment that was used as the foundation for everything that came after President Trump's election by the American people in 2016, launching essentially what was a years-long coup.
Director, could you elucidate for us who are not potentially familiar with what a burn bag is? Why would you keep documents in one? What is the intended purpose of a burn bag?
I have, for example, classified intelligence that comes across my desk every day. These are different intelligence reports that are being generated from across the intelligence community. Sometimes the best way to deal with these documents after I've read them, of course, I don't have the only copy, is to put them in a burn bag in order to make sure that they don't end up in the wrong hands, either intentionally or unintentionally. So I have a bag next to my desk that is a burn bag. This is common in many of the offices of those who work in the national security space or perhaps in the White House. But it's about securing intelligence and making sure that it goes to its intended recipient, not the janitor who comes in to empty the trash, for example. But for these highly classified documents to be placed in a burn bag within the FBI, where apparently they're, at least at this point, I'm not aware of other copies of those documents existing. This is where we have, to me, what appear to be signs of very clear malintent to try to cover up, again, bad actors within the intelligence community. And in this case, we're talking about the at least one of the annexes to the Durham report that, once released, will reveal brand new information about the FBI's culpability under James Comey, as well as its connection to Hillary Clinton and her actions in the 2016 campaign.
Yes, the way that this has been framed for those who have been doing the best reporting on it, like John Solomon, for instance, is that this Durham Annex will show that the Hillary Clinton campaign colluded with and networked with Russian spies through the Steele dossier in order to get Russian disinformation to be merchandised by our own intel agencies, to be whitewashed through the FBI, and that the FBI knew that they were doing this. They were complicit in it, and they were co-conspirators in this. But I, of course, haven't seen the documents, and very, very few people have, as they are highly classified. Could you preview what we're going to learn in this Durham Annex?
I won't get into the details now. The document is still going through a declassification process. It'll speak for itself once it's released to the public. But I think, again, many of the things that you're talking about won't sound like new information. But what documents like this do is actually provide the evidence of what led to the results that we know very commonly as the Steele dossier. Again, something that the FBI knew long before the 2016 election was a discredited document that was created from a political motivation to try to hurt Donald Trump in his candidacy. The fact that this document, the Steele dossier, was knowingly used as a quote unquote source in this January 2017 intelligence assessment that President Obama ordered then his DNI James Clapper to produce, along with then former CIA Director John Brennan, is astounding from anyone who's looking at this, even from outside the intelligence community. You would have these people in charge of our national intelligence enterprise knowingly, willingly, and demanding that this Steele dossier be used as a credible source in this intelligence assessment, and then going and shopping around this intelligence assessment to Congress, to the American people, not only as an assessment, but stating, as John Brennan and James Clapper did, that this assessment, they had high confidence. They had high confidence in this assessment. And that's a technical term within the intelligence community. It's as close of a categorization of assessment that you could say with near certainty. Things are never certain until they are very real and have actually happened. So within the intelligence community, it's the highest bar that is very difficult to reach for any intelligence professional to make an assessment with high confidence. The CIA and the FBI singularly were the only two intelligence community elements that said that January 2017 assessment, the one Obama ordered, that was knowingly filled with falsehoods. Brennan and Clapper shared that document and its assessment with high confidence. When we talk about accountability, these are the things that we are talking about. There were no accidents here. All of this was done intentionally and willfully, creating a false, an intelligence assessment filled with falsehoods, specifically to sell a lie to the American people, to delegitimize the 2016 election, to delegitimize President Trump and his administration, and use this document as the so-called evidence for everything that would come after, from congressional impeachments to years-long investigations to harassment, investigation and smears against the president and his family, senior officials, some having to serve time in jail. The list goes on and on. And this is where I think it's important, Benny, to just remind people about the seriousness of these implications and how it has to do not with Democrats or Republicans, but with every American, and our ability to have faith in the integrity of our elections, and that there will be a peaceful transition of power, peaceful transfer of power. Once the American people's voices are heard in an election, as they were in 2016 with President Trump, President Obama should have said, the people have spoken, we will prepare for this transition. That didn't happen in 2016. Instead, they were unhappy that President Trump got elected and began this process of creating a manufactured intelligence assessment filled with falsehoods, specifically to undermine and legitimize President Trump's presidency.
Director, you've called these actions treasonous. Stephen Miller has called them seditious conspiracy. If you lay out the fact pattern, specifically given the Durham Annex and what we've heard reported is going to be in it, you'll find that Christopher Steele was working for sanctioned Russian oligarchs, that many of his sources were Russian spies. This is a document of foreign interference, and that is definitionally treason. They were using foreign agents in order to affect and undermine our election. It just isn't the narrative that Donald Trump was doing that. That's been pushed on us for years. It was the opposite, correct? It was actually Hillary Clinton and the establishment at the FBI using foreign intelligence in a treasonous act against our own government. Am I getting that correctly?
You are, yes. And the interesting thing here is, again, I want to point back to the documents we released, because people can go and read for themselves. Go to odni.gov. There you can click through. You can read the documents for themselves. This is not my view or my opinion or my interpretation. Go and read the documents yourself. Look at the emails that were sent from James Clapper's assistant out to the intelligence community, communicating that this assessment will be created per the president's direction. Read the documents for yourself. And then you can see, as you go through the documents, how in the months leading up to the election, the intelligence community consistently assessed that Russia had neither the intent nor the capability to be able to influence or swing the election for Donald Trump. And that's a critical statement there, because in the assessment that President Obama ordered, and you'll again see in the documents with great detail how he wanted an assessment that delivered intelligence that details how Moscow tried to help Trump get elected, not if, but how. And then DNI Clapper and CIA Director John Brennan delivered for President Obama through this manufactured intelligence assessment, again, based on discredited information and shoddy intelligence that was weaponized for a very specific political purpose.
You've mentioned multiple times that you have referred these documents for charging by the DOJ, and there's now a strike force looking into them. What do you expect those charges to be?
I'm going to leave that up to the lawyers. I am not a lawyer, but we have and will continue to give Attorney General Pam Bondi, their strike force team, Todd Blanche, and their team there at the Department of Justice, every single piece of evidence and documents that we find that continue to expose the truth to the American people about what really happened and who's responsible.
Something that I thought was very interesting as we were looking through the timeline of the documents is December 8th and 9th, that the President's Daily Brief being pulled, and learning that the President's Daily Brief also went to Donald Trump. And so Donald Trump would have been given exculpatory evidence were that President's Daily Brief to have gone to his desk via General Flynn, that there was no Russian interference in the 2016 election. Do you believe that there was a political motivation to hold that back so that President Trump wouldn't see that rightful intel?
I have not yet uncovered evidence of that, but in my view, this is too coincidental to be a coincidence. That very clearly, when you look at all of the Russia, Russia, Russia rhetoric that came from Hillary Clinton throughout that campaign. If President Trump then, as President-elect Trump, had seen a president's daily brief, this is an article where the intelligence community views it as being a very highly esteemed product, that only the best of intelligence gets into this president's daily brief. If they had published that document, which said again that, I'm paraphrasing, that Russia had neither the intent nor capability to influence the election in favor of Donald Trump or either candidate, then President-elect Trump would have seen that and said, hey, see, this is what I knew all along, yet Hillary Clinton's been saying all of these things and making all of these allegations against President Trump and claiming foreign interference. For years, Hillary Clinton claimed that she would have won the election and been president if not for Russia. That was an inconvenient truth. The president's daily brief article was pulled. It has never been published until we released it about a week and a half ago. Instead, this new intelligence assessment was ordered by President Obama that contradicted directly every other intelligence assessment that had been published prior to the election, as well as assessments that had been pushed forward after the election, again, that said the exact opposite.
The timeline is absolutely remarkable. And then this article from the New York Times, the day that President Obama decided that this would be the narrative, they even run it with a photo of him. It's shameless. December 9th, stating that their sources are from the administration. And it's already the pre-baked narrative that Russia helped Trump, even though the intelligence community hadn't done their assessment yet.
That's right. Again, very
how's that possible, Director?
They got the message about what the narrative was supposed to be. They then reached out to their friends in the mainstream media to start to plant those seeds so that when this assessment came out, it would not be seen as something shocking or as contradictory as it obviously was to every other assessment that had been put out prior. And I think again, this is a good opportunity to point to why many of these mainstream media outlets have either been completely silent in the wake of these historic revelations, or they essentially are taking the approach, if they cover this story, they are trying to diminish it, say, hey, there's nothing to see here. This is a play on words, or, these are baseless accusations. They're even trotting out a woman, Susan Miller, who claims to have been the author of this 2017 January intelligence assessment. And she's claiming that everything that I've revealed and released to the public is all false, that we're the ones who are telling people lies. Well, I've checked in to Susan Miller, as well as checked in with some of the folks who were in the room when a lot of this was happening. And they have confirmed through multiple sources that Susan Miller was not the author of this intelligence community assessment. Once again, the mainstream media trotting out discredited individuals and reports, because if they actually report the truth, they would somehow have to admit their complicity in this, as you pointed out, from day one.
Yes, from even before the intelligence community assessment, they were running with the narrative that was decided on December 9th, the same day. The Washington Post and the New York Times, it's shameless when you go back and look at the timestamps.
Yes.
Shameless. Very quickly here, if you don't mind moving to one other topic, you made a comment at a cabinet secretary meeting that has stuck with our audience, and they'd really love an update on it. And it's about the 2020 election. And you were talking about the security of that election, and you were telling President Trump that there has been evidence that has been uncovered of potential breaches. I'm not exactly certain, but I'd love a follow-up on this. Here's the moment right here, and perhaps do you have any updates on the 2020 election or anything that you've found, Director?
The point that I was making there in the cabinet meeting was early discovery that I had seen from a whistleblower who came forward, who was working under CISA at that time, which is responsible for critical infrastructure and trying to protect against cyber vulnerabilities, critical infrastructure, including, of course, the integrity of our election systems. And what was interesting was seeing how this whistleblower brought forward information that CISA at that time, the federal government, was aware of vulnerabilities in our election machines, but they chose not to disclose that information to the American people or to the administration at that time. This is an area, of course, of critical importance, once again, for the American people to have faith in the integrity of our elections and that it is their voice that is heard through these elections. We're continuing to investigate this, and when we have information that we're ready to release, you'll hear about it.
Okay, so we're going to be hearing more on the 2020 election and some critical vulnerabilities.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Very good. Our audience was thrilled when you released the JFK documents. It's the gold standard of declassification. I don't think you get enough credit for it, but you followed through on President Trump's mandate. There were some alarming things revealed there, but I wanted to touch just ever so briefly on this, the CIA bumping into Lee Harvey Oswald before he shot JFK, as the official narrative goes. Your commentary on this, it's something the CIA has tried to keep secret for 60 years, and now it's out thanks to your office and your declassification efforts. Remarkable.
Yeah, well, thanks, Benny. I really give all the credit to President Trump, because he came in and issued these executive orders. I think it was within the first week of coming into office that mandated that everything that the intelligence community has on the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, of Robert F. Kennedy, and of Martin Luther King, Dr. King, must be released to the American people. Now, in each of these cases, some documents had been released previously, either by, in JFK's case, congressional mandates, but they were highly redacted in many cases. And then in the case of Senator Kennedy and Dr. King, many of those files had never been released before and were literally sitting in boxes in storage. And so sending out hunting teams to go and find these documents, looking in places that people hadn't looked before, really provided us the opportunity to deliver on President Trump's promise to the American people, for them to see and learn about each of these three cases, incredibly historic and tragic events in our nation's history, once again, to bring transparency and truth. And I'll tell you what, there are some folks within these intelligence agencies who fought very hard to keep many of these redactions in place. And it was President Trump. I was traveling overseas at the time, attending a security conference, and he called me in what was the middle of the night. I don't remember where I was exactly, but he specifically said, do not redact anything. Don't listen to anyone else who tells you otherwise. So President Trump really gets all of the credit here, because he made a promise to the American people. He has delivered on that promise. And I'm grateful to be able to do this work once again, to be able to give the American people what they deserve. And this is something I share with people who work in my organization, is the constant reminder is we work for the American people. That means what we do belongs to them. There are national security considerations, of course. Not everything can be declassified, but we work very hard every day to be able to make sure wherever we can share the truth with the American people, so they can draw their own assessments and draw their own opinions based on what we're sharing.
One final very quick follow-up to that point and to one you made earlier about the media being used as a propaganda mechanism. We saw it flatly. I mean, I think it's the smoking gun, quite frankly, of the Obamagate narrative and the Russiagate narrative, that it was so baked in that the New York Times and Washington Post went and ran with it. Some would say that that's part of Operation Mockingbird. Some would say that that's part of what we learned in the Church Committee, that the intel agencies were using media outlets as their mouthpieces, and that those mouthpieces would parrot the official narrative. And I wanted to ask you, is this operation still going on? Are you aware of the intel agencies working directly with media outlets in order to push prescribed narratives that may or may not be true?
It's something that we've already had to deal with, Benny, within this administration, where there are people within the intelligence community who believe that their will is more important than the will of the American people. and will weaponize intelligence by leaking it to their friends within the mainstream media with the intent of undermining President Trump's agenda. It is not one that he hasn't already talked about in every rally and town hall that he did throughout the campaign. I don't even know how many there were, but President Trump is enacting the very thing he promised the American people he would do in this election. So people in the intelligence community, they may agree, they may disagree. That's not the point here. As intelligence professionals, as people who work in the national security space, in the intelligence community, they are required to fulfill their mandate to their oath to the Constitution of the United States and to the President of the United States, who is duly elected by the American people. Those who leak intelligence to their friends in the mainstream media with the intent of undermining the president who was elected by the American people, none of these intelligence professionals were. They are subverting the will of the people and therefore undermining the Constitution.
It's wild that you're still having to deal with that. Call it what you will, but Operation Mockingbird, just incredible that they were just out with it, that they were using the media as government organs to push propaganda, and it's still happening today.
This is why what we're doing is so important, Benny,
Yes.
and this is why President Trump's mandate in this is really critical, is by exposing the truth, by exposing the bad actors within the intelligence community and in the political space who are weaponizing intelligence to advance their own political interests, is so important to be able to turn the light on in places that have been dark for far too long, expose the truth, and drive accountability. That's the only way that we can actually shift this and begin the work to try to restore trust in the intelligence community.
Yes. Anybody who's in a healthy, functional relationship knows that you have to trust the other person first. And so when your office trusts the American people with this information, that's how you actually restore it. And there was much to be restored, and you're doing just God's work. Truly, everybody must follow Tulsi. You most likely already do. But 750,000 people do right here. DNI Tulsi Gabbard, with a cool photo of her inside of a Apache right there. And Godspeed. I cannot thank you enough on behalf of our audience for attempting to restore that trust and being, frankly, the gold standard in the Trump administration for delivering.
Thanks for all that you do and all that you are focused on a daily basis to help emphasize the truth and help with the messaging that is focused on the most important things, which is our country and the American people and our Constitution.
Salt and light. Salt and
That's
light. The truth. Thank you, Director.
Thanks, Benny. Good to see you.